When taking the IELTS, many people find the reading test the most challenging part of the whole test. But it doesn't have to be that way. To achieve your goals, all you need is a method and lots of practice, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. In this video, we're going to take an overall look at the test. Then, we'll learn the method for multiple choice questions. Finally, we'll practice with a reading text that could be from either an academic or a general test. There will be multiple choice questions, some summary completion questions, and also some practice with true, false, not given questions. Here's a quick overview of IELTS reading. It will take 60 minutes. There are 3 sections, and overall there are 40 questions. Time management is really important in the reading section, so aim to spend no more than 20 minutes on each section. Here's how the scoring works. It is quite forgiving. You can miss a lot of questions and still get a good score. There's a slight difference between general and academic. In IELTS reading, there are 11 different types of questions you may receive on test day. In this video, we're only going to practice 3. Practicing these questions will not only help you do better on the test, but they'll also help you become a better reader, so that on test day, when you're reading the text, you'll find that you're able to read faster and with better comprehension. Right, let's look at a good method for tackling more conventional multiple choice questions, where each question has a stem and 4 options. First, always check the instructions. Usually, only one answer is required, but sometimes you need to give more than one. Then, read the question stem and identify key words. It can help to underline or highlight them. For example, here, stevedoring means unloading ships. Next, scan the text and find the relevant section. Here's where the keyword from the stem kicks in. We recommend that you don't read the answer options just yet. Read the section carefully and think of an answer yourself. Why does the author talk about stevedoring in an article about queues? Now, after you've given it a little thought, read the options and choose the answer. So, in this case, which is the best answer? Option A. To contrast this field, stevedoring, with service industries. According to the text, ships sail into port just in time to be unloaded by stevedores, whereas, unlike ships, people unfortunately enter queues randomly. Don't worry if you found that question challenging. What we're focusing on here is the method. What's the best way to tackle a conventional multiple choice question like this one, irrespective of whether the subject matter is familiar or not? Let's summarize the method. These symbols might help. There are 6 steps. Check instructions, read the stem and identify key words, scan for the relevant section, read carefully, think of an answer yourself, and then read the options and choose. Okay, so that's a good way to approach these multiple choice questions. This is a simple and efficient method. You should allow a maximum of 1.5 minutes or 90 seconds for each question. That's a reasonable length of time, but don't spend any longer or you're going to run out of time with the other questions. Every question is worth 1 mark. Give it your best shot for a minute, make your choice, and move on. All right, are you ready for some more practice? Let's tackle a whole section. You can do this. This first text will have multiple choice questions and summary completion questions. It's worth taking a moment or two to read the text first, so you get a general idea of what's in the text. This will help you to see what the text is about and how it's organized. Feel free to skim through the text now. All right, let's now complete the questions. The text has been split up with the questions next to the relevant paragraphs. When the timer reaches 0, you'll move on to the next set of questions. First, we'll answer the multiple choice questions. Feel free to take some time to answer them now. Now we'll answer the summary completion questions. Take some time to answer them now. All right, take a break. It's pretty intense working through a text, looking for the answers, but hopefully it all worked out. Don't worry if you don't get all the answers. This is your first attempt. The more you practice, the easier this is going to be. Remember, it's not an easy test, and you deserve credit for every single step of progress that you make. Let's look at the answers now. Here we go. Look at the underlined words in the text, starting at the top, prior to the 1850s. Prior means before, so the answer to number 1 is D. The other dates are distractors. Number 2, Hargraves said he would be a baronet and that he would send his horse to Britain, But none of these predictions came true. So A and B are wrong. Lister and another man found gold at Yorkie's Corner, not Hargraves. So C is also wrong. Earlier on, the text mentions that Hargraves and Lister found gold when they were working in New South Wales. That's the answer. D. Discovered is another word for found. Number 3. In the final paragraph, it says that by May, half of Sydney seemed to have left for the gold fields. By May means in May at the latest, not after May. So the best answer is A. C is clearly wrong. The text is about a gold rush, not a revolution. And although a newspaper is mentioned, it doesn't say that people left for the gold fields after reading it. By going back and looking at the correct answers, we can work out why they are right and why the other options are wrong. The more you understand the way that the questions are phrased and how examiners lure you away from the answer with these false clues and distractors, the better you'll get at choosing the right answer. Let's look at the next two questions. Number 4 is like number 1, straightforward. Rich fields were found near Ballarat. That's the same as gold was discovered close to. So the answer is A, Ballarat. The miners came from Sydney and from Melbourne and Geelong. They walked to the gold fields. The gold wasn't close to these places. Question 5 asks what the newcomers frequently carried. The text says that they were generally loaded down with, among other things, flour, tea, and sugar. They carried food, in other words. Some of them pushed wheelbarrows. They didn't carry wheelbarrows. The word honeycombed and bark appear, but they are false clues. They are not things that the people coming to the gold fields carried. So, questions 6 to 10 were summary questions. An important thing to remember is that your job is to fill in the gaps with a word from the passage. The answers are provided for you in the text. You just have to find them. The words you choose must be words from the passage. The wording around them, though, will be different from the wording around the gaps in the summary. Our friends' synonymous phrases, also known as parallel expressions, will help you locate the answers. I'll show you what I mean. Here are the answers: wood, bars, theaters, craftsmen, and standards. Let's look at why. Question 6 talks about some buildings in wealthier areas, which is synonymous with the richest fields in the first paragraph, where houses, hotels, and dance halls, in other words, some buildings were made of wood. The answer is wood. Let's look at the next two questions, 7 and 8. The summary talks about how successful prospectors sought entertainment. Another way to describe successful prospectors is diggers who struck it rich. They headed to bars and theaters. 2 answers for the price of 1. That's good. It buys us a bit of extra time to spend on another question. Question 9. The big clue here is the word accomplished, which is a synonym for skilled. Consequently, the answer must be craftsman. That didn't take long. These summary questions are good for gaining time. For number 10, the order of the things that were brought are swapped around. In the text it says middle-class standards and wives and children. Another way to say wives and children is families. The summary says they bought not only their families, but also new standards. The same 2 things, just a different order. Great work. Again, don't worry if you didn't get all of them. At this stage, we're familiarizing ourselves with the format of the test, and the tricks of the trade. The more you practice these tests, the more you'll see the patterns in the way the questions are written, and that's going to help improve your overall reading ability as well. Let's finish by practicing some true, false, not given questions. We're all familiar with true-false questions, but what about this not given? It means that no information is given in the text that would answer this question. I think a better name for not given is doesn't say. If we look for the answer and the text doesn't say, then the answer is not given. We don't know whether the statement in the question is true or false because it doesn't say. It's not given. Okay, here we go. Here's a text about wildfires and 5 statements. Are they true, false, or not given? Give these questions a go. I'll give you 3 minutes to answer all 5 questions. How'd you go? Let's take a look at the answers. The first one is false. Next, not given. After that, not given. Then we have another false, and finally, false. None of them are true, and be prepared for that. Sometimes it happens. Let's take a look at the evidence in the text that supports each answer. Number 1, wildfire has been an integral part of California for centuries. That's not a new phenomenon. False. Number 2, the text doesn't say anything about increasing costs, so not given. Number 3, Californians must live with earthquake risk, and they must live with wildfires as well. Is one risk bigger than the other? It doesn't say. So it's not given. Number 4, the text says that fires are inevitable, unavoidable. They cannot be avoided. Therefore, it is not possible to eliminate the risk. The statement is false. Finally, number 5. The text says that the work of firefighters can be eased by clustering or grouping homes together. It makes their work easier. It doesn't interfere with firefighting. So again, the statement is false. So that's it. We're done. Until next time, keep trying, keep reading, keep positive, and most importantly, keep practicing.